Rain was falling the way old sorrows fall, quiet at first, then all at once, like the sky had finally decided it could no longer bear its own weight. Elias Crowe rode through it slow, his hat brim dripping, his coat heavy, the world blurred by sheets of cold water. He had known storms like this inside himself, storms that swelled without warning, storms that drowned men long before they ever reached a river. Maybe that's why he noticed the small shapes on the road when most men would have ridden past. 5 children, huddled together like a single trembling creature, their clothes dark with rain, their shoulders shaking, their eyes wide the way only fear could make them. Lightning flared, painting their faces pale and hollow. And then, behind them, a soft thud, a woman's body collapsing into the mud. Elias' breath caught, and for a moment he wasn't on that road anymore. He was somewhere in a memory he never talked about, watching another person fall, knowing he had reached him too late. But this time he moved. He swung off his horse, boots sinking into the soaked earth. The children didn't speak. They only stared up at him like he was another danger. The smallest boy stepped forward, arms spread in front of his siblings, though he was shaking so badly his knees almost buckled. Elias knelt slowly. "Easy, little man," he murmured. His voice came out rough, like it hadn't been used in a while. "Ain't here to harm nobody." He walked past them to the woman. Her hair clung to her face, raindrops sliding off her lashes. When he touched her cheek, heat burned against his cold fingers. Fever, starvation, exhaustion. She was slipping away. He lifted her carefully, as if she were made of glass. The children's fear cracked, replaced by panic, and they rushed to her, clinging to her skirt. "She ain't gone," Elias told them, though he wasn't fully sure. He took off his coat and wrapped it around the shivering youngest girl, then lifted their mother onto his horse. The children watched him with desperate eyes. "I'm taking y'all someplace warm," he whispered. The ride was long, the rain unrelenting. The children clung to him and to each other, their breaths shallow and quick. Elias kept glancing back at the woman, Mara, he would learn later, her head resting against the saddle horn, her pulse faint, but still there. His ranch rose from the storm like a small miracle. A cabin with a lantern glowing soft in the window. He carried Mara inside, set her gently on the bed he hadn't shared with anyone in years, and started a fire. The children crowded by the door, dripping water onto his wooden floor, unsure if they were allowed inside. He held out a blanket. "Come on out. Heat's for everyone." Slowly, they moved toward the fire, settling in a tight bundle. Elias checked Mara's breathing, too rapid, too weak. He warmed water, tore bread, and set it near the children. They ate like those who had forgotten the taste of food. When morning came, sunlight broke across the plains, but so did trouble. Hoofbeats thudded outside. Sheriff Boone Delaney, with Mabel Rourke perched behind him, both wearing faces that said they'd arrived with judgment already formed. Boone shoved open the door. "Heard you took in Whitlock's brood," he said, looking around like Elias had brought wolves indoors. "They were dying in the rain," Elias replied. Mabel sniffed the air. Her husband owed half this territory money. "Folks say her misfortune spreads." She eyed the sleeping children. "How want him on the orphan train?" Elias stepped between the lawman and the door to the bedroom. His voice stayed low, calm, but edged with steel. "Ain't nobody tucking him children." From behind the door, a soft sound, a breath, a stir. Mara had woken just long enough to hear him defend them. Tears pooled at the corner of her eyes. Boone squinted at Elias. "You don't know what you're tangling yourself in." "Might be," Elias said, "but I know what I saw, and I ain't turning away." The sheriff left with a warning, stirring dust with his horse's hooves and leaving behind a silence that felt brittle. Over the next days, Mara drifted in and out of consciousness, her fever breaking slowly, and in each small moment, something wordless bloomed between her and Elias. He left warm bread by her bedside, though he never mentioned it. She, still weak, mended the torn shoulder of his work shirt and folded it neatly on a chair. They spoke very little, but they didn't need to. Their gestures formed a quiet language. Her children filled the ranch with a life Elias hadn't known he missed. Junie chased chickens like she meant to outrun the past. Caleb insisted on helping Elias with chores, though he could barely lift a bucket. Ruth hummed songs while sweeping the porch. Silas watched everything with careful eyes. Baby Hattie slept curled against Mara's chest. But as warmth took root inside the ranch, cold words spread across town. People said Crowe had lost his mind, taken an accursed family, brought doom upon his land. Boone returned twice, hinting it'd be better for everyone if Mara moved on. He didn't understand storms that had followed her from town to town long before the rain ever did. The real trouble came one night when Elias was fixing the barn door and heard horses thundering toward the house. He stepped outside, jaw tightening. Boone, 2 deputies. They dismounted with grim purpose. "We're taking the children," Boone announced. Not a skin this time. Inside the cabin, Mara stood with her back to her children. She was still pale, still weak, but her eyes, those carried a fire that would not bow. Elias stepped inside, standing beside her. Their shoulders nearly touched. The children pressed into their mother's skirts. Boone reached for Caleb. Mara stepped forward, voice trembling but fierce. "You will not take my babies, not after everything we survived." "What you survived?" Boone scoffed. "People died following your husband's debts. Towns turned against you." Her breath hitched, but she didn't step back. "My husband died owing nothing but the truth that he was a broken man. I buried him alone because no preacher would come. I walked miles with 5 children because every door was shut. I begged for work, but folks whispered curses and turned away. I have carried them, fed them, held them through nights colder than death itself. You don't get to take them from me." Her voice cracked. It wasn't weakness, it was history breaking open. Elias felt it like a blade through the ribs. He stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. Not a lover's touch, but something steadier. Something like, "You're not alone now." Lightning split the sky. The storm outside rose, wind screaming against the walls. Boone looked from Mara to Elias. For a long moment, the sheriff's hard exterior faltered. Something human flickered through. "You've suffered enough," he muttered, turning away. The deputies followed. Hoofbeats faded into the storm until only the rain remained. Inside the doorway, Mara swayed. Elias steadied her with gentle hands. She looked up at him, eyes shining with exhaustion and something deeper, a gratitude that carried its own kind of ache. "You're safe here," he whispered. "All of you." It wasn't a confession. It wasn't a promise of forever. It was something simpler, stronger, a safe harbor in a world that had been unkind too long. Days passed with a grace that came softly, like morning light slipping across a wooden floor. Mara grew stronger. The children's laughter returned. Together they mended fences, stacked firewood, rebuilt Elias's old barn. It wasn't spoken aloud, but each nail they drove, each board they lifted, stitched their lives closer. One golden evening, Elias stood watching the horizon burn with color while the children played in the dust and Mara folded laundry nearby. He felt something warm spill into the hollow places inside him, something like home. Mara stepped beside him. Their shoulders brushed again, lighter this time, almost a promise. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Breath over breath, their quiet connection deepened. And maybe in that simple closeness, the storms inside them finally hushed. If you're listening to this now, remember this. Sometimes life doesn't change with thunder or grand gestures. Sometimes it shifts in the smallest acts of grace. The warm bread left on a bedside table, the mending of a shirt, the hand that steadies you when you're falling. Storms may break us open, but they also reveal the people willing to stand with us in the rain. And if you're lucky, the family you help save becomes the one that saves you right back.